All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's stream. I'm very excited for today. I will be chatting with Melody Meckfessel, the CEO and co-founder of Observable, and someone who I have the absolute pleasure of working with. Observable grew rapidly in 2020, which, as we all know, is a time that transitioned a lot of us to remote working and came with it a lot of adjustments. In this discussion, Melody will share her insights from leading the company through growth, change, and learning over the past year, and we'll answer questions from the community. We'll start with me kind of interviewing / having a discussion with Melody, and then we'll be leaving some time at the end for questions from all of you from the community. So be ready to toss your questions in the chat when the time comes. Before we get started, I'd just like to raise a couple of announcements. I will share my screen here. One is that we have the Observable community survey. We're asking our community members for feedback on how you use Observable and, more importantly, how we can make Observable better to meet your needs. So it would be great if you haven't filled it out yet to fill that out for us. Additionally, flagging that there is a contest going on right now, a Fork to Win contest. If you go to observable.com/templates and choose one of our boilerplates, integrations, or templates, starter notebooks to fork, then you can go ahead and follow these instructions, tweet it with the hash ObservableFTW, and be entered to win. Additionally, we have a few more events coming up in the next couple weeks. You can check out our meetup event there. On Friday, there's a Happy Forking Friday. Anjana and Ian will be coding collaboratively, starting with some ready to fork starter templates. Next week, Tuesday, there'll be a fireside chat with Mike and Deepti, who are the CTO and also the head of product of Observable. Next Friday, API starting points, and then the following week, data viz starting points. So keep an eye on the meetup for other events upcoming. And one other thing I'd like to flag is this blog post. This will be relevant to some of the discussions today. This was an article written last year by Melody, and it shares a little bit about the story of Observable in 2020 and how the company adapted and what was learned in the startup journey. So without further ado, I can bring Melody to join us. Welcome, Melody.
Thanks. Good to chat with you, Molly.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm pumped.
I'm jealous of your background.
Sorry, you're jealous of it?
Jealous of your background.
Yeah.
This up my game.
This was my first background I ever got, and I've come back to it. And I think it's, yeah, like all the colors, they speak to me. So
yeah. That's great.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining. Anything you want to say just to get started?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everyone who's come today. I know we all have a lot going on, and I hope I make good use of your time. I'm really looking forward to the questions that folks have about Observable. So thanks for coming.
Cool. So let's dive in. I just actually mentioned the Great Adaptation, the blog post you wrote last year. So in that, you talk about building the community in late 2019 and early 2020. So now, fast forward, it's been a year since then. What's the last year been like?
Well, it's a great question. What originally motivated me to write the Great Adaptation is because we went into a sort of major stage of growth. Observable, we received our Series A at the end of 2019 and really started hiring a diverse from different domains, designers, developer advocacy, tech writers, software engineers, data viz developers to build the platform for our community. And boy, things sure changed, in the first part of 2020.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share what we had to do to just very quickly adapt and to continue to put people first, the folks that work on Observable, us, as well as the people using Observable in this kind of crazy time. I think our mission to help everyone make sense of the world with data, but to do that together is very relevant. It's still as relevant as it was a year ago. We have seen the community come together to do work within their organizations for their day job to have better insights, because the market conditions have been pretty unclear in terms of the effect of the pandemic. The other side of this is really that everyone needs more care, has needed more care during this time. And so it's led to us, coming up with more evolutions and adaptations on what I wrote about a year ago. So I'm happy. I'm going to share some of those things today as we talk, hopefully. And, it's like some things feel the same. So we were always, as a company, going to be in a hybrid working model where, some folks are fully remote. Maybe some folks spend some time together in person, while other things just completely changed, right? Like the events that we used to go to connect with each other in the software development community, in the data viz community that's growing globally. We had to figure that out. And I don't know that we had figured that out in the first half of 2020. We've been kind of trying to find different ways to connect with each other as we do our work and with our community. So lots of lessons learned there that we're still, I think, trying to understand. But I feel really grateful for the team over the last year. There's been some amazing changes to the platform, and we wouldn't be able to do that if we weren't, supporting and caring for each other.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of companies and CEOs can relate to that, right? It's like there's a lot of reactive things that needed to happen. Most people didn't have pandemic planning in.
Yeah. That wasn't a plan that that we came up with ahead of our let's grow so we can support the community.
And you talked about spending a lot of time and care building a healthy and diverse team, and paying attention to kind of the caring for others. And, as our team grew from 6 to 25, can you talk more on that? Like, what changes has the team gone through in the last year?
Yeah, I think, I guess I have to start by talking about that there's choice in how we treat each other. And there's choice in what you bring to your company culture and how you do work together. And what we found in the last year is that starting with a place of kindness and generosity and empathy, we can't do the work on Observable without all the folks that are contributing to it. And those people include, the Observable team members, and they include all of our community, because our community is contributing so much to, sharing work, trying to figure out how to do something where maybe there's a gap in the product and getting frustrated. And then you add on top, challenges that we've had probably, like no other time in our, current history. People dealing with isolation, people that are ill, death in the family. These are really challenging conditions and situations that we've all been in. And so I just want to come back to this point of choice. We all get to decide how we show up to support each other. And I think it's been really important to be more open about mental health, to be more open about self-care. We have evolved Observable's kind of approach in terms of making sure people have heads down time, using tools that help us connect in a more organic way then kind of dialing in for a meeting. So no meeting Wednesday. We're using different ways to connect with each other. And I think that part of it, in terms of, I'm having a hard day and I want to be able to just be honest about that, is something that I feel so proud that we as a company are able to do. And we're also able to bring that to our interactions with the community, because we can't do the challenging work to develop the product or to work through an issue that, that someone is struggling with on the platform if we're not taking care of ourselves. And there's one point that I just want to bring up. I think, to come back to this choice, and you're hearing my dog Isabella in the background. She likes to communicate. That we can be empathetic as a company. We can care for ourselves. We can care for our community. And we can also be productive and efficient, right? We can also be focused on delivering things effectively with each other, making great use of our brains, our brain power. And I think you can do both, right? You can be productive, you can be efficient, you can be focused, and you can have empathy and also love that for the work that you're doing for each other, and for the folks that you're building the platform for.
Yeah, I'll just add something that has been so great for me is working somewhere where I can admit to being human, where I can admit to today is a hard day for me and I need to have a heads down day or take a personal day. And I think that that's not always as welcomed at some other places. So it's just been, especially during this time where things are harder, it's been nice to be able to be open about that and admit that.
Yeah, good. Because we're right. Humans, we're writing software. We're the ones writing the software. If we're denying our humanity as we're trying to do this work and do it in this environment like we've never experienced before, that has to come first. And I think
absolutely,
it doesn't mean a trade-off in doing good work and working well together.
Do you want to talk more about that? So this kind of, keeping the company healthy and balancing, supporting people while also supporting people to achieve their goals and achieve the goals we've set for the company.
Yeah, that is what we've been learning over the past year. So how do we come together to make best use of this incredible brain power within the company of Observable and within our community? I know. One of our values as a company is creativity, and creativity is, it's a big topic, but I think it's really key when you think about exploring data and trying to learn and understand, trying to gain insights and using visualization to do that. Many times, the answers are unknown. Even some of the questions as you're exploring change. And so when you think about how do you come together to solve problems where the answers are unknown when you're using Observable to understand data, but also when we're building the features to support that. And our focus over the last year has been, how do we make visualization and exploring data more approachable and accessible to more and more people? And that means we have had to try things that maybe we weren't expecting to. So I think it's important for us to be clear with each other, what are the requirements we're trying to solve? What is the impact that we're trying to have? What's the why? Why are we doing this? And then I think that individuals within the company can bring their own creativity. And it's interesting, one of the principles of creativity is having a high risk tolerance. Because you may, as we're building features, we may go through multiple iterations on the design to get where we want it to be. And as a creator and a person using Observable, interacting with your data, you're doing the same process, right? You're exploring and iterating and coming up with new ideas. So those high-level requirements and the reason why, I think, have led to a lot of creativity within the team. I think the second thing is being really clear about what the constraints are. Time, our brain power, That's like the most important thing. So I think what we've tried to do within the last year is be much more clear about how much time do we want to work on this, being very transparent about our priorities, and then empowering team members to just, okay, if we're not going to get this in time, we're going to have a fast follow where we're going to get that tweak that we want on the feature out the door. And then I would say the third thing that we've learned is just doing a lot of reviews out in the open. And I think trying to live and model a very kind feedback culture where we're clear in our feedback and we present suggestions, and we're the helpers, right? We're all helping each other and supporting each other. And then the I didn't use my mug today, like the meeting that could have been an email, being super protective, right? Like when you're wasting time and you're not working on the thing that is going to have impact, it's frustrating, right? And so we want to make best use and be respectful of our time. So we have weekly snippets. We try and keep our status reporting like written down, asynchronous. We try to do quick stand-ups. We reserve Wednesdays for no meeting time. And just in general, I want to encourage everyone to protect their own schedules, right? You know best what needs to happen. And yeah, we don't need to spend a lot of time talking about status.
Yeah, totally. It's up to us to protect our bandwidth, protect our time.
Yeah. So those are some things that I think, just thinking about how to unlock creativity and just make sure we have the time to do it, the time to iterate and think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at Observable, one of big things we're trying to do is make it easier for people to get insights from data, because we believe looking at data helps us make better decisions. So do you want to talk a bit about, how we put that into practice within Observable as a company?
Yeah. We have learned a lot in the last year about the importance in investing in analytics. So trying to understand usage data. And by usage, I mean, is this feature something that the community is finding value in? And we can do that through qualitative, projects. You mentioned the community survey. We would love to hear your feedback. If you're, here today, that is gold for us because, feedback is a gift. If you don't know what folks, both positive and constructive suggestions, then we can't act on it. So there's a qualitative piece that we're committed, and we will continue to do that. And then there's the quantitative piece, which is really trying to understand, is it delivering value for folks? So we invested early in analytics, and in the last year have made a shift to really try and have analytics for actions that are taken in place before we release the feature. And as part of that, we try to also come up with, how do we know if this has, landed? How do we know if this is something that is valuable? So having those analytics in place, it may slow down our release of the feature, but we want to know from the beginning. And then we try to make sure that we're doing 1 month kind of retrospective reviews, or we call them landing reviews, where we're looking at those dashboards that are all created in Observable, by the way. All of our analytics and our understanding are Observable notebooks, which is
and a lot of plot,
really fun, and a lot of plot now. But here's the thing: if you're not looking at that data, you can look at the data and be like, oh, it seems fine. But you can't ask questions, right? It's the same thing when you're creating a data viz. If you don't kind of get into interacting with the data and asking questions, you're just not going to learn. And so, this principle of continuous improvement, we've launched some things that, we didn't have analytics from the beginning, and we regret it. So we're really trying not to do that anymore. And we're trying to make sure that as we're creating those dashboards for ourselves and Observable, we're finding things that we want to improve in the broader product, which is good. But yeah, we've gained a lot of insights on our product launches through that.
Yeah. And what about when like the data shows something uncomfortable, or you're not seeing the results you want, or something isn't working? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's difficult, right? Because I think as humans, we want the thing that we built to be perfect. And then we also have to live in reality that this is software we're writing, and it's nearly impossible to do that.
Yeah.
So, I think you won't know how things are going if you're not looking at the data. So you can have great intuition, right? And great, understanding. But if you're not looking at the data, you're just not going to know. And I think you have to, what we've tried to do is be open to asking tough questions when we see that a feature is just not delivering value. We'll try some fast follows. We'll, do some reach out for feedback in the community. But I think you have to be open to looking and saying, this is not working. We had a hypothesis. It was grounded in some good data, and it just didn't work out. So we have to be able to change our mind. We have to be able to learn from our mistakes, which we do by looking at the dashboards, doing the retros. And then we have to, be open to shifting what we do. And that means practicing like non-attachment, to being open to changing, and then focusing on things that we know are having impact in the community. To me, it's about that positive impact to helping more people explore data and use visualization to do it. So to keep all of us keep coming back to that. And yeah, you have to be open to just being like, this is creativity, right? It didn't work out. And you have to live in that reality, because if you're holding yourself back from that, you're not going to go do the next thing that's actually going to maybe have more impact and help folks more. So, and that's hard. Like, it's human emotion that we have to acknowledge. It didn't work out. Yeah. What do we learn from it? What are we going to carry forward? That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, it's always harder to stop something than it is to start it sometimes. So, yeah, and you're talking about impact and how impact for our users and allowing them to explore data more easily, and as being a big focus. So if we think about impact as delivering this best possible experience for users, how do you approach understanding what it is that the users need or what they want?
Yeah, that is something we will, it's something that we will continue to have to do and get better at, being a good listener. And the other side of being a good listener is being a good communicator. So, things changed in the last year. Figuring out events to participate in, figuring out meetups and topics that are interesting to folks, figuring out collaborations that we can do in the community. We've just been trying to bring an experimental mindset to that. So I think one thing that I'll start with, how do we stay close to what people need and what they want on Observable? So one aspect is that we use the product for almost everything. We use the product to write product specs. I use it for our board meetings. We use it for all of our dashboards for our production on call. We use it for our analytics dashboards. We use it, our tech design docs, right? A whole range of visualization use cases, and also writing, prose with data analysis interspersed. So we're, dog fooding constantly. So we feel the friction points ourselves as users of the platform. And we're very much incented to fix it, right? Because we feel the pain first. So that's the first thing. And I am so happy and will push us as a team to keep trying to solve our own problems using the product. The second thing that I would say is that we added research, user research as a function early on. So in the last year, we brought on user research expertise, Henri, and he is leading us in the qualitative research that we need to do, our surveys, our interviews, shadowing, and then we do regular debriefs within Observable, as you know, Molly, to really dig in and understand what people are saying. Like this part of what I'm trying to do in Observable it's difficult. Like, help me, and we have to listen to that. And then we have to turn that into those high level requirements with impact statements that I talked about before, and then figure out how we're going to execute on it. So that research is constantly informing the product development that we're doing. And then the third thing that I would highlight, which I am so grateful for, is we started an ambassador program in the last year. And these are folks that are I know, so grateful. These folks have given early feedback before we've released features to the community. You can find them on our website. They're doing amazing work across many different domains, biology, architecture, teaching data viz, all software development, all kinds of creators. And their feedback, it's early. We get it early. It's tough. And by tough, I mean good, like actionable, that we can improve upon. And they have continued to provide support to other folks that maybe are new coming to the platform. So we really view the work that we're doing as a partnership with all the folks in the ambassador program. Their feedback is invaluable. So I think, by feeling the pain ourselves every day, making sure we're getting research coming in so we can inform our decision, and then our partners in the ambassador program, I think in the last year, that has really helped us focus the product work that we're doing for the highest impact.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect time to do one more shout out to the community survey. Good segue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're talking about, getting this feedback and all these ideas coming from a lot of different places. So we do a lot of things at Observable, and there's so many ideas coming both from within the team and outside of the team for new things that we could do. So how do you think about balancing all of these things that we are working on with the things that we could be working on?
Yeah. So, well, first I want to give a shout out to you, because we have had multiple ways of collecting ideas. And Molly, you led kind of rethinking about how we gather those ideas and how we document those as a team so that people feel listened to. They're very clearly documented, and we can, as we're looking at kind of our goals for the quarter, come back to those. So thank you for doing that. We've tried 4 or 5 different things, and I feel like this is good. We're going to keep this going. Mm-hmm. So I think there's that sort of exploratory part, but then there's also being clear about what we hear. So if we take that input from people using the platform, we have these inputs. We have our analytics, right, from the features that we see are highest usage. We have feedback from the forum, which has been incredibly invaluable. But then it's our job to figure out what are the specific goals that we're gonna focus on. And our top level goal as a company for the last year has been to support a growing, thriving, inclusive community on Observable. And as part of that, to make the platform more approachable and available to more folks of diverse skills. And so, I think what that means is that we need to be clear as a company. Okay, is what we're doing in service of that top level goal? And that means we write down our goals. We do quarterly objectives and key results. These notebooks are all public so that everyone in the company can see them. Over the last year, though, I think we had to get better as a team at saying no. So those were a lot of conversations that we had to have about continuing to keep trying to do fewer things well. a smaller set of things and do those well. And that part is hard too, just like admitting failure that we just talked about, where it didn't deliver the results. Like, say no to something that you really want to work on that you know is going to help someone using Observable. That's difficult. So really,
There's only so much time.
I know, and brain power, right?
Yeah.
And so I think writing down the goals, explaining the why. So I think even if we as humans or individuals don't agree with a particular maybe feature that we're working on, or it doesn't resonate with us on a personal level, if we understand the reason why through the research, through the feedback, through the impact statement, we're going to do better work, even if we disagree with it, right? Because we're going to be in a position where we're going to say, oh, this is why we're doing this. So we try and make a focus on just writing down our goals, being clear about the impact and the reason why, empowering people to say no. Like when I'm in a meeting and someone says, no, I can't do that because we're doing this thing right now, I'm like, yes. It makes me so happy because that, I mean, because we can only do so much. So it seems silly, but, sometimes we're afraid to say no. And I think that's just an important part of a healthy culture. Like, we're in it together. We're focused on the goals. We may get pinged to do something, and it's our job to communicate if we can do that in the context of the other things we're responsible for. And then the final thing that I would say, besides the goals and the impact and the why and say no, is just coming back to retros, being really transparent about what's working and what's not, avoiding surprises, right? You just did a retro last week, right? With the team. Those things are really important because that's acknowledgement. And then we move forward, right? We move forward with that new kind of understanding and agreement on what we learned.
Yeah, very helpful to learn from both, what could be better and what's already great.
Yeah.
To move forward with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thinking about actually, I'll also just shout out to folks. I'll be wrapping up some of the questions I have. So this is a perfect time if you have questions to start tossing them in the chat. And so kind of thinking about all of this, Melody, and thinking forward, we talked about how the company supports the team, understanding what our users need and what's working, and thinking creatively and experiments and how we can impact the community. What would you say is the main thing that you're thinking about as you lead the company into the rest of 2021 and beyond?
One thing? I don't know that.
How about as many things as you feel like talking about?
Well, I mean,
what are the top things? Multiple things.
I think it's, a lot of it is what we've already talked about. Yeah. I think it's really important to come back to your mission. Like, what is the thing that we're trying to do in the world? And we are trying to help as many people as possible make sense of data, and to do that together in a place. And that place is Observable. And so talking about that as a team internally, and also soliciting input from our community, it just it helps us get through the hard days sometimes. Just coming back to that this is a journey that we're on together. I continue to try and put communication, written and, through Meet, through chat. Healthy communication can make or break our execution, like the work that we're doing together. So, our weekly all company meeting, our stand-ups, how we chat with each other as issues come up. Healthy communication is so important. And when I sense that something's breaking down in communication, I want us all to make it a priority. And then, I think just we do bi-weekly culture talks where we come together and talk about things that are important to our company culture. I think, that's really helps support. You can have great policies and flexible policies for folks, but I think it's the day-to-day and investing in culture, we did a workshop on self-care and mental health. I think investing in that care and kindness and love is really important. And, I look forward to our Thursday stand-up. We do a company meeting on Monday, and we do a Thursday stand-up. And the Thursday stand-up is just all about recognition and kudos and
I love
kindness.
that meeting.
I know, me too. Because, if we're doing a good job learning from our mistakes, we also have to really appreciate each other, the work that we're doing, the support that we're providing. Life is precious. One of my mentors, Sam Ramji, he has this way of talking about how we work together and the role of leadership, the role of connecting folks, and it has to do with caring for your heartbeats. And I don't know, I love it because it's so visceral. Like the time that you and I just spent talking for a half an hour, like those are our heartbeats. We're not going to get those back. And so trying to be respectful and kind and make best use of it, I think is beautiful. And that's the kind of company we want to be. It's, the work that we want to do to take out to the community. And I just feel really grateful.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to keep bringing.
Fabulous. Well, I think this is a great time then to start taking some questions from the community. There's already a few posted. I'm going to start with one of the more recent ones just because it relates to what we were just talking about, but I promise I'll come back to the folks who posted earlier. So someone asked about the culture talks. They said, how do you come up with things to talk about? Do you have pre-planned topics or do you come up with it on the spot?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we try and plan them by quarter, so like every 3 months. Anyone in the company can sign up for them. Molly and Anjana just led one on how we communicate through chat and like what are our best practices. I'm leading one next week, or the week after, I can't remember, on how to have crucial conversations, which is just like, how do you communicate in ways where you can talk about tough topics? I think in a couple weeks, Clint, who's our head of communications, this is going to talk about like, how do you talk out in the public? Maybe it's with like community or press or so, how do we want to talk about Observable? And Kudik Washe led one on imposter syndrome, which was really
great.
Amazing because it talked through kind of the different approaches. So we try and come up with them ahead of time. We have a notebook where the person facilitating, kind of puts some speaking notes or some references. And then we have an open group discussion where we either talk all together or we go into breakouts.
Yeah, I love the culture talks. And I think it's so great that, anyone can mark themselves down for one if there's something that they feel is important. So it's great. It leads them to some really good conversations.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So we have a question about when developing a new feature, by which criteria do you assign product owners and responsibilities, pick people to work on the feature? What's commonly the internal process from concept to prototype to MVP to published feature?
Wow, that is a great question. So it's kind of a mixture of people's preferences and their area of expertise. So one thing that I didn't mention, which is kind of good to mention now, is that in the last year, I wanted to create more openness to people playing different roles. So we had folks that kind of changed roles. Maybe they were doing software development and they wanted to do more data viz development. So I try and make sure that we're aligning where some folks, developers, engineers on the team want to do more design related work. So they want to work closely with the design team. So we try and factor in folks' expertise, the particular feature, and then what their growth, kind of where they want to be spending their time, and try and align that as much as possible. We have a product roadmap we create one for the year, and then we set goals per quarter in terms of features we're going to work on. So we try and think ahead. I try and think ahead to who's going to own it and what their role is going to be, kind of as a decision maker or as a technical lead. Sean and Ramona and Dunstan, our design team, are also thinking through like what are the things that they would focus on from a design perspective. And the same thing for developer advocacy, right? There's just natural preferences that folks have. So we try and align all of those. Sometimes when we're prototyping at the early stage, we'll do like an experiment. We'll write it down. or we'll try and build something in Observable to flush it out. And we MVP, minimum viable product. I try and bring minimum lovable product because sometimes the viable isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we do write down product overview docs. Deepti, our head of product, leads that. Once we write that down in terms of like the product, the requirements, the impact, we do a product review. We have product reviews every week where we review it as a company. Anyone can come and provide feedback, and then we'll decide to move it to the next stage where we start getting a development, version in progress. We do a lot of demos as things are underway, both in design reviews, because we want to tweak the design as we're actually developing it, and then at our company-wide meeting on Monday. But everyone pitches in, like we're going to add a release note today for something that we launched yesterday. And there were a bunch of people that contributed to that. So there's a little bit of like thoughtfulness and, aligning with preferences and expertise. There's a lot of just open feedback and iteration along the way. And then there's just kind of like all hands on deck, where we're trying to help each other get it done.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds like
a sense of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great explanation. We had some questions on why decide to form a company? What was the critical thing to sort out when you did that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, Mike isn't here, Mike Bostock, who originally founded the company, and I joined him to help grow the company. I think the question really was, is this something that will help people? Mm-hmm. And if it's something that will help people, we want to bring expertise together as part of a company to support it. And, Mike is, he believes so strongly in the power and the potential and benefit of data viz, and his work on D3, I think, has helped a lot of folks. But what about a place where people can come together? And that's D3. It's also Vega, Vega Lite. It's other, web libraries. I mean, you think about people being able to explore data and use visualization as a tool, a way of thinking and gaining insight. And to do that at a place where there are a lot of other people that are sharing their work that you can build on, right? So, tomorrow's Happy Forking Friday. You can fork a notebook and like add your own data and get started, which, I think it's hard in software development to just start from a blank slate. So we've been trying to create this place where this can happen. And to do that, we need structure, we need different expertise, and we wanted to try it. We want to keep doing this work. So that was a lot of the motivation around how to, how could we help create this place for people to come together to do data viz. And it's amazing to see the growth of the data viz community in so many different dimensions, like the work that's happening within enterprise companies. We had an enterprise council yesterday where we met with some of our key customers to hear their feedback and to know that there's other members that are just coming now to data viz that are going to learn the early stages of some of the, the challenges that they work through. So, yeah.
Yeah. And were there any like big, what were some of the big hurdles initially to kind of sort out as you started?
Well, I think trying to refine our mission. So I think in the early stages, there was this idea of, and it was great, the magic note, right? Like Observable, when you're working in the notebook, it's your environment. And it's also the thing that you're creating, the artifact. Mm-hmm. And with data flow, right? Like all these things that we want as software developers of our code compiling, right? Like help knowing when something's broken, being able to debug it. This environment that we're in is so much more when it's on a platform. So it became not just about the notebook, or your favorite IDE or like a developer tool. I mean, developer tools are important, but it's about what that is enabling and in the community. And so I think we had to figure that out.
Totally.
Figure out if it was more a developer tool or if it was something that was going to be more of a platform where people could come together. And that influenced, some of the features that we worked on in the last couple of years.
Sure. So it sounds like getting back to really firming up the why.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
big why. Yeah.
And that came from feedback in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely been a journey.
Well, so this is a fun one. Are there any recent successes that have happened at Observable that you wouldn't normally get a chance to talk about?
Oh, geez. Let me see. Let me think. I mean, I want us to do a better job of this, sharing stories of celebration. We have been sharing more about our retros. Like, we had a database outage and we wrote about that. But there's successes at the company level, successes in the community, and then there's successes at individual, like humans, like the humans that are building the product, and the folks in the community that are creating. I have to say, like, I want us to talk more about the ambassadors. The ambassadors, the things that they're creating on the platform and sharing that other people can build on are really incredible. And, I was just looking through what was being shared on the platform on the Explore page of Observable, but then I was also finding things in social media on Twitter, which was like, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at what, look at what someone's created. It's incredible. And so those successes, like, those are daily inspiration points. And I want us to talk more about that. We've had some people grow in their roles in the company. I mean, again, shout out to Molly. Molly's leading developer advocacy. We have folks taking on different project leadership roles in the company. Sydney, is leading a new project to work with data and make some improvements in the notebook. So there's just been a lot of, like, growth within the company to do new things, which, we don't talk about those publicly, but within the company, I'm really proud and grateful for how the team is evolving, and individuals in the team are evolving.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we have, there's only one more right now. So if you have more questions, post them in the chat. So what is the dream or ideal world you imagine when you think of a world where people really can make sense of data? What possibilities do you see this enabling?
Gosh. These are really good questions. I mean, what's the dream? So the dream, there's a couple dreams. The first dream that I would say is that everyone is kind of part data explorer, maybe a little bit of data science, that it's like a muscle, that everyone has this expertise, that it's not an obstacle to asking questions about data that affects us in the world. And so a lot of that has to do with how we learn and teach each other data viz. And it's not just the viz, right? That's the thing at the end. It's how you wrangle the data, how you explore it. Like how you dig in and analyze, like, what are the questions that I want to ask? And then it might come up with something interesting of, like, okay, well, maybe this visual form is better to interact with the data than this one. So the whole process, really being able to have the support and the tools, and then to keep growing those muscles in terms of your understanding to do those things for yourself. So everyone's kind of maybe part data developer, scientist, explorer, adventurer, whatever word. I can't come up with the right word right now, but that's the dream. That's the dream. So, and to use the things that are helpful for you. So, I'm not a proficient D3 user. I'm still very much learning. And when Plot was released, like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can do the thing that I want to do pretty quickly. And, everyone has different needs, different things they want to do. So, like, having the autonomy and the support to be able to be kind of part data expert. The second dream that I would say has to do with data literacy. there's just a lot of data about ourselves, about our community, within our businesses, to really help empower and enable that in the world. We've seen that within, we've seen that within the enterprise in terms of business insights that folks gain, but we've also seen it in terms of social equity. COVID, the pandemic, wildfires are starting on, again, with the summer months, really just trying to be able to empower people to ask these questions and to share the data with the world. So I think the dream is like, just like we have the ability to learn to read and write, that we are developing, more people are developing these literacy skills as it relates to data.
Yeah. I'm going to chug along because we have a bunch of questions coming in and only so much time. How do you see the company within the overall internet landscape, and how do you try and respond to changes within it, especially since it's such a cool, unique niche it's in?
That's a big question.
Lots of big questions.
I know, I love it. I'm like, okay. So Observable, you're right. It's unique in that if I look at the landscape, there are notebooks, right? There are notebook products. There are notebooks that are enabling people to do work, to write code, to explore data. There's also, what we call business intelligence tools. So the ability to create dashboards and reports. In the notebook, right? Jupyter, our studio, there's, a bunch of sort of products we can look to. In the business intelligence space, there's Tableau and Looker and Power BI. And these are all things where, there's templates and formulas to start from, but maybe there isn't the expressiveness as so much with code. And then there's a bunch of stuff around collaboration. So like, how do you bring people together? I think we use Figma internally around design, but how do you create collaboration around specific tasks or specific areas of product development and software development? So those are just kind of three areas in the internet landscape, right? And then there's a bunch of web development tools that you can look to. And Observable's kind of sitting in the middle of these, right? Like the notebook is an environment. It's also the thing you're demonstrating. You can build dashboards, you can build reports, and we also have collaboration. So multiplayer editing in the notebook where, like Molly and I could be riffing on code and collaborating in an interesting way. And then sharing work with the world, right? So when you publish an Observable notebook, it's out there and people can come back and fork. So we're kind of sitting in the middle. So we're really trying to pay attention to this idea of like collaborative, business and data intelligence. Like, how do we help people come together where the notebook supports the work? It's easy to do dashboards or the viz that you're interacting with, and you just have this ability to collaborate. Like the collaboration is critical. Like that's how we iterate quickly and get to a good outcome. So we're paying attention to the value that we provide in the middle, in this kind of unique space where we're trying to bring those pieces together.
Absolutely. I love this
creative work happening out in the space.
Mm-hmm. I love this comment, by the way. The data wrangling was a big step for me as I started with DataViz and Observable. HQ was great to quickly work with data with instant feedback, decrease the learning curve. That's cool. So great to hear.
Thank you for that feedback. And we're continuing to make improvements in, data analysis, data wrangling, data exploration, as it relates to kind of that process of asking the questions and getting to the the visualization you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
So what are your thoughts on generating showcase content, which not only shows off the product technology, parentheses, the focus on examples and templates has been excellent, by the way, but also dives deep into some particular subjects of mutual interest to demonstrate how much easier it is to understand complexity and how more exploration, discovery, and insight these make possible?
This is something we've been thinking a lot about. Thank you for the question. you're sitting by yourself or you're collaborating with someone in a notebook, and there's so much sort of creativity and analysis that goes into that process. And so we are excited to continue to come up with new types of content, some of it pre-recorded, some of it workshops and participation, where we can show and explore together. So an example of that, I mean, doing some live demos, doing more live demos, coming up with, kind of different deep dives into the product, kind of like the initial to get started, and then the more deep kind of exploration of different features. There's an idea right now within the team of like a series. So like walking through certain creative exploration to kind of give the behind the scenes look. We do those today through live streams and a lot of creative coding, but we're going to come up with new ways, maybe more tutorial, more teaching based, more workshops, more webinars pre-recorded to kind of focus on particular things you can do in Observable. But yeah, I love the feedback. I mean, templates was a big step forward for us to just present like, these are the things that we use that we know people on the platform are using. And we want to do more of that. And actually, at some point later this year, we really want to explore community contributed templates, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, I'd love to hear feedback on suggestions you have. Those are just some of the things that I think we're going to pursue in the latter half of this year.
Yeah, well, so I think we're going to have to probably wrap up there.
Right.
I can do some quick. Well, first, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to say thank you to everyone who came today. These were great questions. I'm going to be thinking about them for a while. And I just welcome your feedback. If you have time, please fill out the community survey. Feedback is a gift. We really appreciate it. And yeah, I just wanted to say thanks everyone for coming today.
Yeah, and here's just a reminder of the community survey. Also a reminder of the contest that's happening right now. So Fork to Win, and join the meetup if you want to see some other stuff coming up. We have a few things planned in the next couple weeks. So thanks to everyone for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
thanks, Melody.
Molly. Thank you. It was a blast. Thank you.